I was a backup for 3 men. The first was my childhood sweetheart, still hung up on his first love. The second was a moderately famous band lead singer. After we hooked up, he lit a cigarette and said, "We're still friends, right?" The third was my direct boss. He coldly warned me, "Don't get any ideas. I'll only marry a woman from a matching family background," until my mom pushed me into a blind date. My childhood sweetheart pulled out his household registry. The lead singer said, "I can't live without you anymore." The CEO handed me a pigeon egg-sized diamond ring. Wait, didn't we say it was just for fun? My mom called to urge me to go on a blind date. I brushed her off. Got it, got it. Send me the time and place. When I hung up, Xiao came out of the bathroom, sleeves of his beige long-sleeved sweater rolled to his forearms, holding my freshly washed underwear in his hands. He crossed the living room and stood on the balcony to hang the clothes. Whose call? My mom's. The man moved the clothes into the sunlight, turned to look at me. The soft sunlight gilded him with a golden edge, his amber pupils as light as early autumn leaves. "You're not coming home for dinner tonight?" "I made fish and greens." "The fish is kept warm in the pot, just microwave the greens." He pulled his sleeves down, casually ruffled my hair, gentle almost to the point of doting. "Don't order takeout." I mumbled a reply. Watching him leave with his bag, I knew his first love was returning to the country today. Xiao and I lived together. He treated me like a daughter, hand-washing my underwear, everything served on a silver platter, but I wasn't his girlfriend. He had been waiting for Cui Xiao. Strictly speaking, I was the backup. I wasn't like this before. It's all those romance mangas' fault, writing nonsense about an ordinary female lead and a silently devoted childhood friend male lead. I took one look and thought, isn't this just me and Xiao? Childhood sweethearts, innocent and close. He was gentle as jade, but only close to me, his little childhood friend. I was ordinary in looks, grades, and personality, yet he always walked to and from school with me. He helped me with homework, even gave snacks to people around me, telling them to be more tolerant of Xiao. That got my hopes up, a girl's heart stirring with love. I started keeping a diary, knitted him a scarf, gave him chocolate. Until that graduation night, when Xiao came to our classroom holding flowers and carrying gifts. In the noisy private room, the boy in white sang a lingering little love song, then took the microphone to pour out his teenage heart. Young and innocent, I was almost in tears. Finally, Xiao said, "I want to tell you, I really like you." I stood up and shouted, "I like you too, Cui Xiao." The room fell silent. Everyone looked at me. I blushed and said, "I need to use the restroom. Sorry. I made a clumsy exit. After using the restroom, I came back. Through the crack in the door, the pretty class beauty and my handsome childhood friend stood on the stage as the crowd chanted, "Kiss." The boy lowered his head and asked her devoutly and restrainedly, "May I, Cui Xiao?" The girl blushed and nodded. I didn't watch any further. After that, I avoided Xiao. He blocked my doorstep, and I turned to run. Xiao grabbed my wrist, his grip firm. Xiao, he said, "I've always seen you as a sister." Sister my ass. What brother teaches his sister homework with his face practically touching hers? You're a no-boundaries flirt. Unfortunately, I've been smooth and diplomatic since I was a kid, really just too proud to lose face. I forced a smile. Haha, it's fine. You're such a good brother. Little sister thanks you. Xiao looked at me. He was good-looking, with those innocent puppy eyes and light-colored irises, looking pitiful. "Then don't be mad at me, okay? Don't avoid me." I said, "Okay." I turned around and applied to a university a million miles away from him. Bye-bye. I unilaterally lost contact with Xiao for 4 years. He replied to messages instantly. I responded ages later. He said he'd come find me during break, so my roommate and I immediately booked tickets to travel elsewhere. Until my first year of work, when he said he'd been transferred to a company nearby. First year of work. I lived alone. I hadn't become that effortlessly capable adult. Endless work and messy relationships suffocated me. When I opened the door and saw Xiao, I'd already been up for 2 nights. My apartment was a mess, things scattered everywhere, takeout boxes still in the trash. He was dressed all sharp, carrying a big bag of fresh fruit. His gaze landed on the dark circles under my eyes. He just smiled, eyes crinkling just like when we were kids. "Knew you wouldn't take care of yourself." I was a bit irritable. What are you doing here? He sidestepped my question and slipped into the house, patted my head, and headed into the kitchen to wash some fruit. I followed him, cursing under my breath. I didn't invite you in. But he shoved a bowl of strawberries into my hands and told me to sit and eat. I hadn't even recovered from my surprise. He had already started tidying up the unwashed dishes in the kitchen, the stray hairs in the bathroom, the sanitary pads scattered in the cabinet. 4 hours later, I was sitting in the spotless living room, sunlight warming me as it streamed through the windows. On the coffee table was a bowl of Yangchun noodles he had cooked for me. I looked up at him. Xie was still mopping the floor. My rilakkuma apron was tied around his waist, accentuating his lean figure. A few beads of sweat glistened on his forehead, dazzling in the sunlight. I squinted at him. What's your deal? He turned his head to look at me. Smiling, he said, Xiao, I've been taking care of you since we were kids. I replied, I'm afraid your girlfriend will beat me to a pulp. Don't drag me into your mess, okay? He froze for a moment, his eyes dimming. I broke up with Yin Xiao a long time ago. She went abroad for college. I lowered my head and ate my noodles in silence. Actually, I was already Wei Ji's backup back then. But isn't there a saying, quantitative change leads to qualitative change? If you're a backup for one person, you're a backup. But if you're a backup for two, aren't they also my backups? After making up with Xie, we rented a big house with separate bedrooms. Now that his first love is back, I can't stay here anymore. I don't need such a big place alone, so I'll just rent a new one. I went back to the bedroom and packed a few things, thinking I'd go find Wei Ji and ask him to help me look for a new place. He's a local. I stood at Wei Ji's door. I entered the password, and the door unlocked. When I went in, Wei Ji was just coming out of the bathroom, his towel wrapped loosely around him. The steam had flushed his pale face pink, and water droplets dripped from his hair, sliding down his V-line into the towel. With his almond-shaped eyes curved, he calmly opened the fridge, took out a can of ice-cold beer, and gulped it down. I stared at his narrow waistline. Aren't you afraid it's a bad person? He chuckled, his voice sounding icy and a little hoarse. Only you have my house password. Oh, I replied flatly. Remembering the purpose of my visit, I came just in time. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, the faint scent of body wash enveloping me. His body was burning hot, and even the droplets of water falling on my neck felt scorching. Just out of the shower, he took my earlobe into his mouth, mumbling vaguely, then stressing each word. Especially clean. When I came to from my half-asleep haze, it was already dark. I was wearing only a shirt he had draped over me. In the dim light, the hickeys on my thighs were glaring. I knew it. Every time I came to see Wei Ji, no matter the reason, it always ended up in bed. My legs were still weak when I got out of bed, and I instinctively went to the balcony to find him. He was holding a cigarette between his lips, his profile looking somewhat lonely in the twilight. That's just how he is, with his top-tier looks. He tricks girls into spinning around him, even though they know what a bastard he is. But the first second I see that face, I still can't help wanting to feel sorry for him. I don't even know why I'm feeling sorry for him. I might as well feel sorry for myself. I leaned against the doorframe. Why did you stop smoking? Wei Ji turned to look at me, his peach blossom eyes curved like hooks. Quitting. Just holding it between my lips for the thrill. I was a bit surprised, so sudden. I've known Wei Ji for over 6 years. He doesn't smoke much, but several times I saw him get hard, yet he pushed me away and got up, saying he needed to use the bathroom. Call him a jerk. He has the means to be promiscuous, yet he's still a virgin. Call him faithful. Anyone who dates this kind of boundaryless nice guy is in for trouble. I took a look around the house, came up with a preliminary moving plan, and immediately started packing. At first I was a bit flustered, but gradually got the hang of it. I sealed a cardboard box, stretched, and headed to the bathroom to shower. Folding clothes was something Xie taught me. He was very good at household chores. When I asked him to teach me, he looked at me with a smile, poked my forehead, and said, "Just leave it to me." I smiled, just smiled back. I said I wanted to learn. He couldn't talk me out of it, so he taught me, as seriously as he taught me math problems in high school. And just leave it to you. Men are unreliable. The day his first love comes back, he'll leave me without a trace. Just enjoy it for now. I can't really let myself become useless from being pampered. When I woke up in the morning, Xia Sun wasn't home, and there was no breakfast he'd made in the pot. I changed clothes and went downstairs to buy steamed buns from the shop. As I left, I noticed he'd changed his shoes at the entrance. He must have come back late last night. I glanced at the WeChat messages. Xia Sun. Hee, I'm going on a business trip for a few days. Take care of yourself. The stir-fry shop and breakfast place downstairs are relatively clean. I'm not sure about other takeout. Better not order. I replied with okay, and scrolled through my moments while walking. I noticed Yi Xiao had posted last night. A man's greatest charm is his ability to solve problems. The picture showed an airport flight. Below, she commented herself. A small matter. Smile. The paperwork had been stuck and couldn't go through. Unexpectedly, he immediately took leave from the company and took me back to my hometown to handle the procedures. I took a bite of the steamed bun and gave it a like. Work grudgingly, slack off happily. In the break room, colleagues were chattering about gossip. Did you see the beauty who walked into Boss Fong's office today? Her legs are longer than my life. And that necklace around her neck, the zeros in the price. I've only seen that many zeros in Chengdu. As soon as I walked in, someone handed me a cup of coffee. Xiao Jia, I just brewed it. I've also reached the point of being a seasoned workplace veteran. I took it and smiled, thanking them. He leaned in eagerly. Xiao Jia, did you see that beautiful woman who came to see President Fong today? She seems to be the daughter of the CEO of Xingyuan Technology, a rich, beautiful, and elegant lady. I took a few extra looks. The sexual tension between her and President Fong was incredible. TSK. I was distracted. I casually brushed it off. They must be perfectly matched. Cui Xiao. A cold voice came from behind. The chatter instantly fell silent. I turned around and saw Fong Qi standing there with a cold expression. The man was tall with long legs, and his custom suit exuded an old money vibe. He was inscrutable. I felt a momentary pang of guilt. He calmly looked away. Marketing department meeting in half an hour. I acknowledged, watching him turn and leave. The lingering chill made everyone afraid to speak. Fong Qi was my boss. An unattainable flower, aloof and inhumane. He was so strict that no one could leave his office with a smile. But the company treatment was just too good. Colleagues all say that Boss Fong has a contrasting cuteness, seeming cold and indifferent, but actually considering his subordinates behind the scenes. I'm a bit scared of him. He always reminds me of my junior high homeroom teacher, who would scold me mercilessly with a stern face, yet give me a small cake when my stomach growled. Getting involved with him happened in my second year of work. I was eliminated during the graduate school interview, so I honestly found a job. The first year was stressful, but by the second year, I had become as slick as wide vermicelli in a hot pot, climbing the corporate ladder steadily. Xia Sun took good care of me, and Wei Ji kept me well fed. Life was comfortable, and I felt quite content. Only by being content can one be happy. As for Fong Qi, it was purely an accident. The person who was supposed to accompany him on the business trip had a family emergency and couldn't make it. I was temporarily assigned to fill in, fully in workhorse mode, flattering the boss, flattering the client, serving tea and water, and humbling myself. That night at the banquet, the client got drunk and wanted to become sworn brothers with Boss Fong. They kept toasting glass after glass. When I helped Fong Qi back to his room, he couldn't even walk straight, dead weight, and I was sweating from the exertion. I had just placed an order for hangover medicine, and when I turned around, he was somehow lying in the bathtub. President Fong. I rushed over to help him out, only to find him unbuttoning his shirt, clumsily, slowly, taking forever to undo one button, like a naive child. I was stunned. I went over to button it back up for him, but for every button I fastened, he undid one. Eventually he got annoyed and just ripped it open, buttons flying onto the floor. I stared wide-eyed. Fong Qi looked up at me, his eyes glistening and hot. He took off his shirt and threw it on the floor. I picked it up and tried to put it back over him. I'll lower the AC a bit. President Fong, please put it on first. He threw it even farther. I went to pick it up, and when I turned around, he had already taken off his pants. I was like, so big. No, the bathtub is so big. If I don't take care of him, I'm afraid tomorrow's headline will be Company President Drowns in Hotel Bathtub. I went over and tried to help him out. Please come out first. Let's go to the bed. The hangover soup will be here soon. You'll catch a cold if you stay here. Fang Chi pressed on the back of my neck and kissed me, lips touching lips, as if merely to shut my chattering mouth. The alcohol fumes made me dizzy. Fang Chi reached out to turn on the water, the stream warm. I reached out and turned it off again. Annoyed, Fang Chi bit my lip and trapped me firmly in his arms. I cried out in pain, and he took the chance to press deep and conquer. It was a long time before we parted. Fang Chi's lips were swollen, coated with a layer of moisture. He looked up at me, his sharp phoenix eyes now glistening with water. I was silent for a moment. A good girl would have pushed him away, but I wasn't a good girl. I lowered my head and kissed him again. I slept until late morning, feeling like I'd been in a free-for-all fight. When I woke up, the sound of water was running in the bathroom. I pressed my forehead, sat up in bed, and grabbed my phone. The sound of water in the bathroom stopped. Fang Chi came out wearing a bathrobe, the belt cinching his waist narrow. Unfortunately, the robe had a deep V-neck, revealing a glimpse of that stunning landscape. Awake. His expression was indifferent, impossible to read. I was as docile as a quail. He sat down on the single sofa and picked up his phone. Cui Xiao, your workability is decent. You have a down-to-earth quality. I thought you would be safer. He implied that I wasn't particularly attractive, then tapped his phone a few times. My phone buzzed, and when I unlocked it, I saw a transfer message and my eyes widened again. Alcohol and adult stress occasionally cause such low-probability mistakes, he said succinctly. I don't want it to get complicated. I nodded immediately. A mistake should be corrected. At work, we're just boss and subordinate. He said, privately, physical and monetary relationships are very straightforward. I was stunned. He stared straight at me, his eyes like deep pools, dark and cold. If you fell in, you'd be frozen to the bone. He ignored me and changed clothes. With a sarcastic smile, he walked to my bedside, looking down at me with undisguised disdain. Don't harbor any illusions. I only talk about relationships with women who match my status. After he left, I lay down, still ecstatic about the huge transfer. As for what he'd just said, I barely registered it. Its impact was zero. It was my first time being rich, so I didn't have experience with such things. Fang Chi wasn't hard to please, as long as I was available whenever he called. He had low demands and no particular quirks. Once he was done, he'd just let me leave without caring if I was tired. His technique was decent, but his bedroom manners were terrible. It was only through my pretending to be crazy and foolish that he slowly picked up a bit of aftercare. That went on for over half a year. I worked diligently until Fang Chi's birthday rolled around. Not sure what others did, I even asked online, and all sorts of weirdos came out of the woodwork. In the end, I decided to give him a pair of cufflinks. I found a designer to sketch them out, then had them custom-made based on the blueprints. It was time-consuming and costly. I sighed, thinking even as a sugar baby, I was this dedicated. On his birthday, to show how much I cared, I handed him a jewelry box after reporting that morning's work. Happy birthday, Boss Fang. Fang Chi's gaze landed on that small box, his expression unreadable. Thanks. But he didn't reach out to take it. Cui Xiao. He looked up at me, his eyes sharp, a chill that kept people at a distance. I remember telling you that our relationship can't go any further. No need to play these little tricks. You'd be better off focusing more on your work. A cold, don't overstep your bounds. I nodded obsequiously and said I understood. Then I said I wanted to take this gift back. He said, just leave it there. I backed out, cursing him in my mind. What a difficult person to please. If you don't take it seriously, you're unhappy. If you do take it seriously, you're still unhappy. Flattery is a real skill. I don't know if Fang Chi did it on purpose, but the work that day was especially hard. I worked overtime for a bit. As I was leaving, I ran into the cleaner. She couldn't hide her joy and was holding a small box. It looked familiar. I called out, Auntie. She stopped. My eyes fell on the small box in her hand, and I confirmed it was the one I had given away this morning. Confused, I asked, what's this? I occasionally greet the cleaner when we run into each other in the restroom. She didn't avoid me, beaming. Mr. Fang gave it to me. Oh no, actually I was cleaning today, and when I was throwing away trash, I noticed this box. I took a careful look and opened it. When I looked, it was something else. The stuff inside was still new, obviously expensive. I was afraid someone had accidentally knocked it off, so I took it to ask Mr. Fong. The cleaner grinned. He said it was trash and told me to just keep it. I was stunned. The cleaner continued. It's still brand new. What a waste to throw it away. Look how beautiful it is. She opened it to show me, and my eyes fell on the pair of cufflinks. Under the hallway lights, they sparkled, set off by the velvet underneath. Exquisite and lovely. Indeed. I smiled and said, they must be very expensive. Auntie nodded. You're right. The rich really are. I said, Auntie, you should head back early. Looks like it's about to rain. Okay, I'll be off then. I watched her back as she walked away. A windfall. Even her steps were lighter than usual. I withdrew my gaze and went to take the elevator. The elevator doors closed, reflecting my stiff smile. Damn it, I was fuming with rage. If you'd said you were throwing them away earlier, I would have picked them up myself. All that for wasting a month of my salary. Damn capitalist, do you think money is easy to earn? I was determined to get it back from him somehow. On Valentine's Day, I asked him for a gift. Fong Chi sent a question mark. Trembling, I sent him the link to the coat from Taobao. Fong Chi, was he really thinking I was too cheap? I typed, haha. Actually, I wanted to ask if you think it looks good. The cursor was still blinking when the next second the payment confirmation sound went off, along with Fong Chi's transfer, more than 10 times the price of the coat. For a moment I was stunned, but I didn't forget to thank the boss first before accepting the money. Actually, I didn't dare to ask for too much. I was afraid Fong Chi would scold me, saying I should take a look at myself. Did I deserve to grab so much? I strictly followed my own looks and circumstances when asking for money. Occasionally, Fong Chi would look at me with a strange expression, as if disdainful of my petty nature. The things he voluntarily gave were more than 10 times more expensive than what I took the initiative to ask for. After a while, I stopped asking myself, just what slipped through his fingers was worth half a year's salary. Damn rich man. After becoming a backup, my life became even more comfortable than before. At work, I could even smile and greet colleagues who had tripped me up. Although being someone's backup is shameful, as Peng Ju once said, I have Fong Chi as my ATM, Wei Ji as my bedwarmer, and Xie Sun as my foot-washing maid. That's enough. But Xie Sun is gone. Without Wei Ji, I felt a little regret, but it wasn't a big deal. Fong Chi was the only one I couldn't quite let go of. After all, money was my one true love. Just the thought of losing a source of income in the future made me a bit distressed. After the meeting ended, a colleague came over to chat. I hugged my files, answering his questions as I walked out, not noticing that Fong Chi was still sitting at the head of the table reviewing documents. When I got to my office and reached into my pocket, I realized I had left my phone in the conference room. I turned around to go back for it. Fong Chi was sitting alone in the conference room. I was startled. Director Fong. He hummed in response without looking at me. I laughed awkwardly. I think I left my phone on the table during the meeting. The table was completely clean. I walked to my previous seat and checked underneath. Nothing. Strange. Maybe I left it in my office and didn't bring it out. Haha, my memory's been a bit off lately. I muttered as I headed out. Here. The man tapped his fingertip on the table. I looked over. Fong Chi's expression was calm. He met my eyes. I walked over and picked it up. Thank you, Director Fong. I'll head back to work now. That's a lousy trick, he interrupted. I looked confused, glancing instinctively at my phone. On the lock screen were 2 messages from the blind date match. Saturday at 10 a.m., Yunhai Coffee Shop. Fong Chi said, I used to think you were sensible, which was a passable virtue. Now that your only virtue has vanished, Cui Xiao, I can't be with you. He said, that's the end of it.
Fine, he nodded.
He seemed stunned for a moment, a kind of adorable bewilderment. I said, I'll go to work first. He didn't speak. I turned and left, just like cutting through a knot with a quick sword. I'd break it off with all 3 at once. When work ended, Fong Chi squeezed into the employee elevator for the first time. The staff were packed like sardines in the corner. He stood at the front with a cold face, seemingly oblivious. I stood beside him as the elevator descended floor by floor. He suddenly spoke. I'll give you a ride. Behind us, someone let out a barely audible gasp. I stared at the floor numbers, dazed. He ground his teeth.
Cui Xiao.
Huh. I turned my head. Mr. Fong, you called me? He responded. It's on my way. I'll drop you off. Haha. Thank you, Mr. Fong. I covered my mouth, putting on a fake smile. Behind us, someone gasped again. Fong Chi looked at me, seeming in a slightly better mood. I took the passenger seat. Fong Chi leaned over. I clicked the seatbelt into place, just as his face came close to mine. Mr. Fong, what's the matter? It's nothing. He sat back and fastened his own seatbelt. The car suddenly fell silent. Fong Chi occasionally glanced at me from the corner of his eye. I looked out the window, pretending to be mute. When the car was almost there, he finally couldn't hold it in. Why did you agree so readily? He asked, then suddenly seemed to cover it up. Just curious. Wasn't it that you didn't want to continue? He was silent for a while. I thought you would be like the others, at least not completely unmoved. I was shocked. You have a lot of gens too? What's a gen? He turned to look at me, his confused face showing almost childlike bewilderment. Ah, that thing. In your circle, you don't call them girlfriends, you call them gen. 5G era, and I'm using 2G internet to explain a 4G meme. Fong Chi was stunned, seemingly still not getting it. The light turned green, and he drove again. No, only you. I mean my friends, when they break up, the other side always cries, begs, even self-harms. No way. I'm someone who values face above everything. Because there's still feelings, I guess. What about you? He asked. Do you have no feelings for me anymore? No, I said. Never did. Only feelings for money. A sharp screech of brakes. The car came to a sudden stop by the roadside. The abrupt halt made my heart race. Fong Chi unbuckled his seatbelt, turned sideways almost fiercely, and gripped my shoulders. His eyes, usually calm as a deep pool, were now filled with utter disbelief. You don't love me? I was puzzled. Why should I love you? He choked. Then why do you deliberately stay in my arms every time after it's over? Because I'm tired. Why do you still smile at me when I'm cold to you? Why do you prepare such thoughtful gifts for me? Professional ethics. Why don't you want my money? Damn it, I did. But I wanted too little, so you didn't take it seriously, right? I was really angry, but I could only be angry for a moment. After all, he was still my direct boss. You're angry? Fong Chi looked at me, his tone cold. Because I hit the mark? It felt impossible to argue. Yes, I'm talking nonsense. Yes, I love you. Fong Chi looked as if he knew it all along. Then I can forgive you this time, he said, with that same condescending, almost charitable attitude as before. From now on, don't use such tactics anymore. Also, he hesitated. I'm free this weekend. No. I shook my head. I started recalling those wife-chasing crematorium stories I read in middle school and kept rambling. But I can't love you anymore. Why? I said. You're going to marry a woman who matches your status. What am I? I can't be with you forever. I tried hard to recall the money I could have gotten from him in the future and said melancholically, Boss Fong, I know we have no future. Let's just leave it at that. I wiped my non-existent tears, the corners of my eyes dry, unbuckled my seatbelt, and got out of the car. I put on a literary air. You rest on a high terrace, I dwell in the spring mountains. This is the best ending for the two of us. Fong Chi was stunned. Cui Xiao, I said, I hope we both are happy. I don't know if Fong Chi is happy, but when I returned to the neighborhood, the sawtooth potato stall downstairs hadn't closed yet. I bought a portion, ate it while walking upstairs, very happy. Over the next few days, I packed up my things, threw away what could be discarded, settled on a rental house, and moved swiftly. I left the keys in the old place. When I came out, Xia Sun sent me a message. Work is a bit tricky, might take a few more days to return. Xiao, I hired a cook to come cook at home. Have you been eating takeout these days again? I replied, no need, I've moved out. You're handling the paperwork for Yi Yin Xiao, right? Just a friendly reminder, if you get back together, remember to keep your distance from other girls. As soon as I sent it, a voice call popped up. I hung up. Xia Sun called again. I hung up again. He called again. I hung up once more, and he stopped calling. 4 days at most. I'll come back and explain. Rational, effortlessly composed adult. That was Xia Sun. I didn't reply. At work, I reported to Fong Chi. Occasionally, he looked at me with a deep, conflicted gaze. I couldn't read him. I couldn't be bothered. I still went to and from work as usual, thick-skinned. Another day off work. I was about to take the subway home. When I got out of the elevator, I happened to run into Fong Chi. I greeted him. "Good evening, President Fong." He nodded and followed me out. "You didn't drive today?" "I did," he said. "I just wanted to have a word with you."
Cui Xiao.
"I've been thinking, maybe we could."
Xiao Xiao.
A flashy sports car pulled up in front of me. Wei Ji, wearing sunglasses with a casual posture. "Here to pick you up from work." Fong Chi's expression darkened. "I'm leaving first, Boss Fong," I said. I got in the car and fastened my seatbelt. Wei Ji floored it, leaving him behind. "Address?" I gave him the address of a supermarket. Wei Ji turned the car around. He asked as if casually, "You moved?" "Yeah." "Why didn't you tell me?" I turned my head to look at him. He curled his thin lips, still wearing that flippant smile. "Wanna kiss?" I remember last time I said we shouldn't see each other again. The smile at the corner of his lips faded a bit. "Bad memory." "Forgot," he said casually. I said, "Set an alarm to remind yourself every day." "Is it necessary to be so serious, huh?" I replied, "It's necessary." Wei Ji's lips drooped, and he suddenly said softly, "What if I said I actually have nothing to do with that girl?" "Nothing to do with her," I said. "I'm going on a blind date." After buying groceries, Wei Ji dropped me off at the gate of the neighborhood without a word and drove away. Saturday morning, I put on light makeup and hurried to the cafe. The blind date had already arrived. He had delicate features and polite manners. As expected, my mom wouldn't introduce any weirdos to her own daughter. The conversation was pleasant enough, and they were a decent person with practical questions. But as we talked, I suddenly realized clearly that I couldn't imagine spending a lifetime with them. A lifetime is far too long. Marriage means deep entanglement, sacrificing part of yourself to merge with another. If it weren't for love, I couldn't think of any reason I'd willingly give up my time, freedom, or even my sense of self. When they asked if we could meet again, I was about to shake my head when a figure suddenly appeared by the table. "What a coincidence," Fong Chi said, his tone flat, lips pressed in a straight line. "Running into you here." "Me, my blind date." "Fong Chi, do you mind if we sit together?" "Mr. Fong." I sighed. "I'm on a blind date." Fong Chi's expression was indifferent, completely oblivious. "I overheard you two seem to be wrapping up." "My blind date, this is my boss." Fong Chi nodded, standing there with no intention of leaving. The other person laughed awkwardly.
"Ha, well.
I'll take off then." "Miss Cui, let's chat on the phone." Fong Chi sat down beside me, acting as if nothing had happened. "I heard the coffee here is pretty good." "People say their coffee is terrible, only good for photo ops." "Oh," he said without flinching. Maybe I remembered wrong. So childish. I picked up my bag, ready to stand up. "I'll be going now." Fong Chi suddenly reached out, grabbing my wrist, revealing his shirt cuff with a pair of somewhat familiar cufflinks. I looked closely, very similar, but still different. A reboot version. I raised an eyebrow. He hummed lowly in response, not defending himself. "Cui Xiao, I've been thinking these past few days. I don't know what love is either, but that day when I saw you get into that man's car, my heart inexplicably ached. Is this love?" He looked at me with a sort of almost painful bewilderment, a far cry from the ever-steady Boss Fong in the business world. I suddenly realized that perhaps he really was, in this regard, as clumsy as a child. "It's not," I said. "It's possessiveness." He fell silent, then added, "I also thought about what I said to you before. It was too hurtful. I regret it deeply." "Is this love?" "It's not," I said firmly. "This is your conscience struggling to grow flesh and blood." Fong Chi's mouth twitched. "I don't want to end this relationship with you. That's habit. I want more. I want to go on dates with you. That's because your daily entertainment is too scarce. I think that man is not good enough for you. That's arrogance." He paused. He continued, "I want to give you a lot of money. That's charity." "No," he refuted eagerly, "not charity." Very firmly. "That day you were eating at a street stall, and you were smiling, looking very happy. I felt very distressed. I got angry again. This is because you always look down on me from on high." "I love you," he suddenly said. This is delirious nonsense. Fang Qi was stunned, staring fixedly at me. Our eyes met. The man's face was cold, his features clear and cold as always, but tears suddenly fell, non-stop, crying fiercely. I got goosebumps. Don't cry with that expressionless face. I didn't bully you. You didn't, Fang Qi said, his clear cold voice stained with sobs, low and hoarse. He said, I don't know, but when I heard your rebuttal, my heart, it hurt so much. Fang Qi looked at me, his gaze intertwined with mine. He said, I love you. I love you, Cui Xiao. He reached out and pulled me into his arms, burying his face in the hollow of my neck. Tears rolled down his neck to my collarbone, causing a shiver. I love you, he said. So this is love. And there was a note of sudden realization in his voice. His ability to infer from one instance to others terrified me. So you don't love me. Damn, this kid is too deep. Must not be kept. Fang Qi had cried enough. He sat up straight and looked at me, his eyes and nose red from crying. His skin was already fair, making him look even more fragile and pitiful. I want to go to your place. His voice still trembling from tears, his tone soft and almost pleading. Okay. I was horrified. I told him he was like my middle school homeroom teacher. When caught reading shoujo manga, he'd smile and say, haha, students are like that, then turn around and make me write a 3,000-word self-criticism. That's not a good idea, I said vaguely. He said, just let me rest a bit. I look too awful. He was about to cry again with that blank expression. Too terrifying. Okay, I quickly said. Let's go. After bringing Fang Qi home, he went to the bathroom to wash his face, then came back and hugged me. This isn't good, I said. Do I know you? Although I live alone, I've lived here for many years. As the saying goes, troubles come to a widow's door, and good news stays at home. Bad news travels far. So I can only live in a thatched hut, keep an eye on the world, step in the mud, and have the world in my heart. Forget it. He doesn't get the reference. He was sad again. You're lying to me. I shut my mouth. I couldn't take it anymore. I got up and said I was going downstairs to pick up a package. He stood up too. I'll go with you. No, I said, glancing at his still reddened eyes. You rest a bit more. I quickly backed out and shut the door. She was gone. Fang Qi remained sitting on the sofa in the same position, waiting for half an hour. She didn't come back. Little liar, he thought, expressionless, deliberately stalling for time. He stood up and looked around the living room. Things were a bit messy. He thought I should hire a housekeeper for her. But this apartment was too small. Then he thought, maybe I should just get her a bigger place. There happened to be a nice apartment near the company. Big enough. It would feel empty for one person to live alone. He could move in with her. If two people were to live there, then renting wouldn't do. He'd just buy it for her directly. He nodded, feeling quite satisfied, and his scrutiny of the house grew even more critical. A knock came from the door. Forgot my keys, Fang Qi thought. Always misplacing things. I'll get a fingerprint lock for the door, then even if she forgets her keys when I'm not around, it won't matter. As he reached the doorway, his reflection caught in the hall mirror. Fang Qi took an extra look, and for no particular reason, he recalled that night when Cui Xiao's gaze lingered on his chest. She still liked him, he thought, and suddenly his mood lifted. He undid 4 buttons. Forgot my keys, he said as he opened the door, asking with a smile. At least 3 days. But Xie Sun compressed it to a day and a half, catching the earliest flight back. Xie Sun grew more uneasy the more he thought about it. Other than the 4 years of college, Cui Xiao had never been apart from him. If it was because of Yi Xiao, he could explain. In the past, young and smitten by beauty, he mistook the thrill of good looks for affection, overlooking personality and values. He and Yi Xiao were not a suitable couple. Moreover, Cui Xiao had started avoiding him, even applying to a university so far away. Xie Sun felt a hollow ache, but this was the path he had chosen, and he had to be responsible for it. He did everything a boyfriend was supposed to do, even maintaining a long-distance relationship with Yi Xiao. Whenever he had time, he would go see her. On the day they broke up, he went to find her. As they parted at the airport, Yi Xiao said, "You don't need to come anymore." Xie Sun was taken aback. Did I do something wrong? She shook her head. No, but you're too fake, she said. It's like you're always wearing a mask, always flawless. You never get angry, never jealous, never sad, never hurt, never troubled. I feel like we're not in a relationship. Xia, have you ever been afraid? When you came to see me, were you eagerly waiting with longing eyes? I had a male classmate overseas that I was flirty with. When you saw us, were you jealous? If I broke up with you, would you be hurt? You wouldn't. She shook her head. So, let's leave it at that. She was right. He felt no pain. Even on the flight back, he was eerily calm. Does love have to be hysterical and agonizing to count? Xia couldn't understand. After the breakup, he started thinking about Cui Xiao again. Meeting her after 4 years, she looked terrible, listless, like a wary little animal. Strangely, the wild joy of something lost and found again was surging through his heart. A voice inside him told him that she still couldn't take care of herself, that she needed him. Everything had been fine until Xiao came back. He always felt he owed her from their youth. He wanted to make it up to her, so when he learned she was in trouble, he chose to help, hoping to be even with her afterward. But he never expected Cui Xiao would care about it again. She wouldn't reply when he asked for her address. He grew anxious. He asked Cui Xiao's family and got the address only after much circuitous questioning. As soon as he got off the plane, he bought some vegetables, fruit, and meat, carrying them to her door again. He was afraid she wouldn't take care of herself, and in his haste, he forgot to tidy himself up. Knocking on the door, he felt nervous. Would his appearance be too messy? Would she dislike it? Would she think he wasn't good enough anymore? From inside the door came unfamiliar footsteps, followed by a deliberately lowered, husky voice asking with a smile, "Forgot your keys?" The door opened and their eyes met. Xia's gaze fell on the man's unbuttoned shirt collar. His full chest muscles were like spring scenery that couldn't be hidden, full of the eager temptation and display of a male animal in courtship. He felt like vomiting. Xia thought, how disgusting. He felt like he was going to get styes in his eyes. Fong Qi's mouth drooped. How disgusting, he thought. Why is this guy looking at me there? I circled the neighborhood 3 times before going to pick up the package and head upstairs. As I stood by the door fumbling for my keys, someone suddenly stopped behind me. He leaned down, his breath spraying onto my neck, damp, scorching, and sticky, like some kind of snake. A bit speechless. How did the blind date go? It fell through. I shoved the keys back into my pocket. He wrapped his arms around my waist and let out a low laugh. Perfect timing. Let's pick up where we left off. You're so cheap, I said. He paused for a breath, then said in a hurt tone, I never claimed to be a paragon of loyalty anyway. He lowered his head and kissed the back of my neck, tickling. Let's just keep going. I've missed you so much. His voice rolled over the tip of his tongue, hoarse and sticky. Every inch of his body wanted to. He pressed close to my ear, almost in a breathy voice. Right now, I can only asterisk up for you. The tone carried a nearly morbid fervor and a reproach that was hard to tell if it was self-satisfaction or showing off. You made me like this. No, I refused without a second thought. It wasn't that I was being noble, but Fong Qi was in the room, and it would be troublesome if the two ran into each other.
Why?
His lips brushed my earlobe, sending a tingling sensation. Found a new friend? That's none of your business. He deliberately ignored that and said, So soon? Is he better looking than me?
Bitch.
A long-lost irritability seized me. I was about to hit him with the package when the door suddenly opened. At the entrance, Fong Qi and Xia stood like 2 door gods, one on the left and one on the right, their faces gloomy. Wei Ji rested his chin on my shoulder, lazily smiling. Neither of them is as good-looking as me. The atmosphere in the living room was a bit eerie. Fong Qi stood looking out the window, his face saying, Strangers keep out. Xia sat on the single sofa, forcing a gentle smile. I am Xiao's brother. His boss Fong Qian was brief and to the point. Wei Ji lounged bonelessly on the long sofa. I am Cui Xiao's. He deliberately stressed the word, friend. I was washing cups in the kitchen, pretending not to know. Xia came over with fruit to wash, standing next to me. The water rushed noisily. He turned to look at me, suddenly calling my name with concern. Xiao, that boss of yours. He's still at a female subordinate's home after work hours. He searched for the right words. Not good. When I opened the door, he was still disheveled. Guys like that pretend to be proper in public, but might be creepy in private. The cup in my hand almost slipped. Why don't you resign and come to my company? That way we can look out for each other. Also, he said earnestly, that friend of yours is weird too. Looks shady and hangs around the wrong crowd. He'll lead you astray. Don't see him anymore. I could barely hold back my laughter. Xie Sun said, society is complicated, Xiao Xiao. Men out there are bad. I looked up to meet his eyes and couldn't help asking, what about you? Xie Sun was taken aback. His pale eyes were like a stagnant lake. He suddenly stammered, his porcelain-white earlobes blushing, a shy pink. He turned his face away and whispered, as if making a promise, I can take care of you for the rest of your life. So pure love. Too bad I stopped being a pure love warrior long ago. Siblings marrying is illegal, you creep, she said coldly. Xie Sun was startled and looked at Feng Qi, who appeared at the door. Somewhat impatient yet trying hard to stay gentle, he said, Xiao Xiao and I aren't blood related. It's just that we grew up together over 20 years. Childhood sweethearts aren't something someone who just showed up can compare to. Feng Qi glanced at him and said indifferently, 20-odd years, and you're still not together. That means you have zero sexual appeal to her. Another 20 years won't change a thing. What do you know? Xie Sun said angrily. It was the first time I saw him lose his temper. How scary, Wei Ji drawled, appearing suddenly. They're not going to fight, are they? So rude. Xie Sun choked on his words. Both shocked and angry, Feng Qi's face darkened. So much drama, it's a mess. Drink it while it's hot. The three of us each took a spot in the living room, not looking at each other. I wanted to kick them all out. It was a rare weekend that should have been mine to rest and have fun. Wei Ji glanced at me, smiled, and suddenly stood up as if he really wanted to rest. I'll be going then. Text me if you miss me. He left so decisively that even I was surprised. I thought he'd be the last one to linger. Xie Sun also glanced at me. His face was grim, lips pressed into a straight line, brows slightly furrowed. Still he spoke. I'll go too. The dishes are in the fridge, the fruit is washed. Remember to eat. He stood up and looked at Feng Qi. Feng Qi didn't look at him, only after a moment said, Xie Sun's face darkened further. Feng Qi then said slowly, I won't disturb either. Xie Sun's expression improved slightly as he stood up to leave, while Feng Qi dawdled. I walked him to the door. Xie Sun hadn't closed the door after leaving, but Feng Qi suddenly stopped. I bumped into his back. He turned around, pulled me into his arms, lowered his head, and kissed my forehead, like a feather landing on the water. With a hint of pity in his eyes, I looked up at him. Feng Qi still wore that cold expression, but a trace of a smile escaped from the corners of his eyes. He had nothing to say to me. I said, sorry, I have no obligation to explain. He was caught off guard for a moment, then bent down to kiss my eyes. You have no heart, Cui Xiao. It tickled a bit, so I blinked. He seemed to find it novel and kissed me again. Who put me on a pure love channel? I pushed him. Go now. Right away, he said, lowering his head. Our warm breaths mingled. Out of nowhere, he blurted out, think of me. Don't think of them. He was too close, but I didn't pull away. As our soft lips touched, I looked over Feng Qi's shoulder and saw Xie Sun, who had returned. It wasn't intentional. I just didn't care. If I only live one life, wasting time on internal conflict is too much. It's better to be happy. I just want to follow my heart. Before I could even see his expression clearly, Xie Sun turned around and left again. Wei Ji stood in the shade of a tree, fiddling with a lighter in his hand. He looked up, staring at Cui Xiao's floor, feeling a bit irritated. He had acted so well-behaved, so why were those two still hanging around? What shamelessness! After sending off Feng Qi, I played games all afternoon. In the evening, I made myself some stir-fry. My cooking is getting better and better. I came out of the bathroom humming a tune in a good mood. I picked up my phone and saw Wei Ji's message. Ordered you a cake. The delivery's almost there. Having a little cake after a shower made my mood even better. I sent Wei Ji a smiley emoji, but he didn't reply. A knock came at the door. I glanced out. The delivery guy in a yellow uniform was holding a small cake. I opened the door. Special bonus. Post-meal digestion activity, he said in that uniquely lazy, alluring tone, dragging out the last syllable. Weiji stared straight at me, his peach blossom eyes curving.
I said, TD, don't be like that.
He took advantage and pushed his way in. I stepped aside to let him in. You really have no shame. Weiji entered the room, put the cake on the table, and started taking off his clothes.
So hot.
I didn't stop him. He stripped off his shirt, revealing a slim waist. Weiji had a lean, toned body, very beautiful, every line smooth and pleasing to the eye. I sat down to eat the cake. He wanted to take off more.
Stop, I said.
Weiji obediently stopped. So eager, he grunted. You're too popular. Go take a shower. His eyes lit up. The lingering steam, the faint scent of body wash, the coolness of mint toothpaste, the leftover smell of laundry detergent on the sheets, all intertwined, tangled, interwoven, indistinguishable. Weiji knelt, working hard.
Cui Xiao.
He suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with startling honesty. He mumbled, That girl? I can explain. I just wanted you to. It doesn't matter, I said. His eyes dimmed. He stopped talking and bowed his head sullenly. All the scents were covered by one. I propped myself up on the bed, my neck arching back, staring at the white ceiling. My eyes unfocused for a moment. Panting, I came to. Weiji was still kneeling. I grabbed his hair, forcing his face up. He was like an obedient puppet, compliantly raising his face to look at me. The mist in his eyes had not yet cleared. I squinted at him, and he obediently met my gaze. I pressed hard, and he let out a breath, low and seductive. I said, A man with humanity wouldn't make a sound like that. Weiji looked at me, eyes curving into a smile, the corners reddened. I've already stooped so low. Toward you. I have nothing but servility. I fell silent. Cui Xiao, he murmured.
Xiao, say something.
Please. I thought for a moment, then started to recite that cliché line. You're so special. You're different from other guys you. He looked at me, lips curling up, laughing happily, eyes sparkling. I shut my mouth. And then, the puppy eagerly waited. I forgot. I let go. It's too long. Can't recite it all. Weiji kept his head tilted upward, dazed, the gleam in his eyes even more watery. So many people have sent me this line, but coming from your mouth, it almost feels real. Damn. I said, What are you going on about? You into me, or what? He lowered his head, placing a very light kiss on my knee.
No.
Not love. An addiction. He opened his mouth, his teeth gently biting the soft flesh of my leg, wanting to leave a mark but not daring to be too forceful. I can't leave you, he said softly. My skin, flesh, organs, bones, hair, everything. If I leave you from here, he pointed at his heart, I'll start to rot, become a pile of rotting, maggot-infested trash. Damn it, I shuddered. What do you actually want? Weiji raised his face to look at me, reaching out to touch me, but his fingertips hovered a centimeter from my lips. With a smile, he murmured my name, like the little mermaid begging a witch for magic. I want to be your dog, he said. You won't like me, won't love me. My promiscuity and the hurt I caused can never be made up for. He laughed, an unhealthy flush blooming on his pale face, his eyes filled with astonishing frenzy and a thick, surging darkness. I want to stay by your side. What else can I do? I can only be a dog, following behind you, wagging my tail, and begging for your pity. I looked down at him. Weiji met my gaze, the mist in his eyes seemingly ready to spill over, stubborn, sorrowful, and greedy. Just as long as you occasionally play with the little dog, that's enough. But the leash is troublesome. It doesn't matter. His fingertips landed on my lips, trembling slightly, gently caressing. Those who need a leash to obey are beasts, not loyal. He withdrew his hand and devoutly kissed the fingertip that had just touched my lips, word by word. I will hold the leash in my own mouth, following you without missing a step. The next day, Weiji was already gone when I woke up. He had left a note by the bed, band rehearsal, P.S., the little dog. I casually tossed the note into the trash. Getting into the habit of tidying up as you go keeps the house much cleaner. Not wanting to make breakfast myself, After brushing my teeth and washing my face, I prepared to go downstairs to find something to eat. As soon as I opened the door, I ran straight into someone. Xie was carrying an insulated thermos, standing thin and straight, our eyes meeting. He wasn't smiling, his expression was almost mechanically rigid. The phone suddenly buzzed. I looked down and saw a message from Wei Ji. "Are you awake?" I ran into that eldest brother-in-law downstairs when I went out. I even said hi to him. He sure knows how to flatter himself. I turned off the screen.
Gomain.
Xie followed me and, without a word, placed the insulated container on the dining table and opened it. I washed my hands and felt the temperature. Still hot. Eat up. I sat down to eat breakfast. He was like a programmed housekeeping robot, taking the laundry basket from the bathroom to wash. He sorted it. Part went into the washing machine, part he hand-washed in the sink. "Where's the laundry detergent?" he asked flatly. "In the cabinet under the sink." Xie bent down and took it out. "This one's no good. Underwear and outerwear need different detergents." He paused, then added, "Next time I'll bring you some." I mumbled a response while biting into a steamed bun. He rolled up his sleeves, washed his hands, and started washing the clothes. When I finished eating, I subconsciously looked up at Xie. He had his back to me. The mirror reflected his slightly tired face, with soft hair hanging down. He lowered his eyes, and his long lashes cast a small shadow, mingling with the dark circles underneath. His expression was indifferent. I stared at him. His lashes fluttered. The movement in his hands paused for a moment, then continued. His lips pressed even tighter downward. When I was a kid, after my mom scolded me, I decided to become an emotionless learning machine to make her regret it. That's exactly how I looked. I withdrew my gaze and went to the living room to play video games. Xie washed the clothes, tidied the living room, pacing back and forth, circling in front of me as if to assert his presence. My snake game crashed into a wall and died. I put down my phone and stared at him. Xie walked back and forth twice, then seemed to suddenly notice me watching him. He tried hard to put on his usual expression, but it came off as somewhat comical. He smiled. "Maybe I should just move back in." "Living alone is fine." He paused, as if weighing his words, his tone carrying a cautious hint. "Yesterday, those two people, did they pester you? I know you might have been momentarily deceived by them, or—" He was making excuses for me through his words. I said, "No." Xie froze.
No entanglement, no deception.
It was my choice. The color drained from Xie face, making him look even paler. "No, I know it's not like that."
You were just tricked by them.
"Yes, you were tricked by them." He tried to construct a reasonable explanation to maintain the order in his world, deceiving himself. I decided to break the peace. "I've slept with all of them." Xie stared at me blankly, as if he couldn't understand the words. The gentleness in his eyes shattered completely, revealing an underlying panic and pain never shown before. After a long moment, he spoke almost brokenly. "No, it's not like that. Please tell me they forced you, or you were just confused for a moment. Please, Xiao." "No one can force me," I said. "And I've been an adult for a long time. Who I sleep with is my freedom." I looked at him. "Don't say these useless things. What do you really want to say? Just say it." Xie stiffened at my question. All the pretense of calm and rationality seemed to crumble in that moment. His eyes were red, as if he had exhausted every ounce of his strength, filled with resentment and immense grievance. "Why isn't it me?" My eyes widened. "Why can everyone else, but I can't? Why can't it be me?" His voice trembled, choked with tears. "You should have said so earlier," I said. "It's okay." Xie was stunned. In the bedroom, Xie lay on the bed, dizzy from my kisses. His tongue was clumsy, only passively accepting and responding shallowly. His breathing was rapid, his cheeks flushed. His inexperience made him irresistible to tease. Xie didn't know how to breathe during the kiss. When we parted, he gasped for air, his eyes wet and shimmering with autumn sorrow. His fingers trembled as he fumbled with the buttons of his clothes. I sat up, thought for a moment, and said, "I won't take responsibility for you." I looked down at him from above. "And I don't need you to take responsibility for me." "Are you sure?" Xie looked up at me, his fingers never stopping unbuttoning. His pupils were light, clear like amber lakes. He bit his lip, the color turning pale. After glancing at him a few times, I suddenly said, "Forget it." I turned around. "Put your clothes on. I don't have a hobby of forcing others." "Don't." A panicked, almost terrified voice. Rarely did Xie Sun, always so composed, lose control. My hand was on the doorknob, just a bit more force and it would open. But someone pounced from behind, holding me tightly in their arms. His hot, moist breath fell on the hollow of my neck, carrying a plea that bordered on agony. "I'm not unwilling. That's not what I meant." "Smile? Please." "Then what do you mean?"
Afraid, he said.
His hand around my waist tightened, preciously, as if to embed me into his body. "I'm afraid. I have no experience. If I don't do well enough, it'll make you think that I'm not as good as them." He was incoherent. That layer of gentle, perfect facade finally shattered, revealing underneath a clumsy, genuine, almost cowardly vulnerability. "I always want to leave the best impression on you, but it seems I always mess it up." I turned around. Xie Sun's eyes were even redder, his long, thick lashes wet with tears like rain-soaked butterfly wings. Kind of cute. I stood on tiptoe and kissed him again. Xie Sun obediently opened his mouth. We tumbled all the way to the bed. Xie Sun was a very restrained person, patient and gentle. Even though he had clearly reached his limit, his body tense and sweat beading on his forehead, he still held back, the corners of his eyes flushed red. His wet lashes kept fluttering, but he only looked at me silently with those amber eyes, full of bewildered questioning and pleading. Unfortunately, I'm not a kind person. Instead, my playful side took over. A faint whimper escaped Xie Sun's throat, then softened out of shame. I deliberately dragged things out until he finally fell apart, his voice hoarse and tearful as he begged, "Xiao Xiao, stop playing around." After it was over, I collapsed into sleep. In a daze, I felt myself being picked up, warm water enveloping my body. Xie Sun's movements were gentle as he carefully cleaned me up. When I was placed back on the bed, the sheets beneath me were already dry and fresh. He lay down and embraced me from behind, burying his face deep in my hair. He took a deep breath, his voice still carrying a husky hint and an almost imperceptible tremor. "That day I heard from Andy that you went on a blind date. How did it go?" Without even opening my eyes, judging by the fact that the two of us are currently lying in the same bed, it probably didn't go well. Xie Sun let out a laugh, but there was a certain bitterness hidden in it. He gently kissed my hair, hesitated for a long time before whispering, "What if you married me? I'll take care of you for the rest of your life." "I'm serious sorry." I said, "I've become anti-marriage now." The person behind me was silent for a long time, so long that I almost fell asleep before he tightened his arms, as if he wanted to crush me into his bones. His voice was muffled. "At least, they won't have a chance either, right? Then let me stay by your side." I said, "No one would refuse a free benefit that lands in their lap." Xie Sun was silent for a moment. He was smart enough to understand that if the price of staying by her side meant enduring the pain of not being able to possess her, the jealousy of watching others get close, and the fear of never receiving a response, if that was the only ticket in, then I'd choose to accept. The room was silent for a long time. Xie Sun didn't get an answer from Cui Xiao. The person in his arms was quiet. She had fallen asleep. He let out a bitter laugh, and for no reason, remembered what Yi Yunxiao had asked him before. Afraid? Yes, afraid. Afraid that she would become someone else's lover, and from then on, he would lose even the right to approach her as big brother. Had he been waiting until his eyes grew weary?
Yes.
On the plane when he decided to come back to find her, every second was torture. He worried that she hadn't eaten well, dressed warmly, or slept properly these past few days. He just wanted to see her as soon as possible. Jealous? More than just jealous. Seeing her intimate with that hypocritical scoundrel, seeing that frivolous young man come out of her house with ambiguous traces, jealousy burned like wildfire, scorching his insides. In pain, the thought of possibly losing her forever, of her leaving no trace in his life from then on, brought unbearable pain. Regret, anxiety, unease, those negative emotions he once considered ugly and useless. The moment he confirmed his feelings, they overwhelmed him like a tide, leaving no place to hide. From love comes worry, from love comes fear. The body in his arms was warm and real. He tightened his embrace. As long as she still allowed him to stay by her side, as long as he could still touch her, then all the worries, fears, and pains born of love, he could endure. On Monday at work, after I finished reporting to Feng Qi, he gave a few businesslike comments, clear and logical, as meticulous as ever. I nodded in agreement. Feng Qi paused, then pushed over a velvet jewelry box. A gift. I opened it. Inside was a ring with a huge diamond. I couldn't tell its clarity, purity, or value, but it was indeed so large that I couldn't help but smile. Feng Qi's gaze fell on me, faint and deliberately nonchalant. Do you need me to help you put it on? He looked at me, his eyes deep and dark. I instantly became wary, quickly closed the lid, and pushed it back. No need. Thank you, President Feng. I don't have the status to accept your ring. It's just a gift, he said in a flat tone, reopening the box and pushing it back. Take it. Like it's so much, something's off, like it's so much, something's off, like it's so much, something's off underscore like it's so much, something's off underscore like it's so much, something's off. My left and right brains are wrestling wildly. Feng Qi watched my expression change, then suddenly let out a very faint laugh. That icy face showed such an obvious smile for the first time. Light, yet like spring snow melting, a fleeting glimpse of an epiphyllum flower. I was stunned for a moment. He repeated, almost gently, it's just a gift. It doesn't mean anything. Don't feel pressured. Haha, I'll take it. Thank you, President Feng. Feng Qi responded. As I turned, he added, one more thing, about those two from before. I immediately interrupted with a smile. President Feng, no personal matters during work hours. A hint of helplessness flickered across Feng Qi's face, even revealing a touch of indulgence.
Phoenix.
My hand rested on the door handle, and just as I was about to leave, his voice came again from behind me, carrying the knowingness of one who sees through everything. Don't sell it. I always feel completely exposed in front of him. After work, Feng Qi offered to take me home. I had just sat down when he leaned over and beat me to it, fastening my seatbelt. I leaned back in the seat, watching the streetlights flash by outside the window, saying nothing. The car was quiet for a while. Feng Qi broke the silence first. I added your friend and your brother-in-law on WeChat. Holy shit, I broke out in a cold sweat. And then, Feng Qi said nothing, his profile looking somewhat cold and hard in the twilight. I was a bit annoyed with him. Back in middle school, being pressured like this by my homeroom teacher would have made me feel guilty because the teacher genuinely cared about my future. I looked out the window. I've already slept with them. So what? Are you going to condemn me for being promiscuous? Or blame me for not being chaste? I put on a stern face. Mr. Feng, I have no obligation to remain faithful to you. Unexpectedly, Feng Qi let out a low laugh. No, he paused. I just want to see the real you, all sides of you. I was momentarily speechless, which made it look like I had overreacted. Are you sick or something? I said testily. A little, Feng Qi actually answered seriously. I got goosebumps all over and warned him. Don't you dare say, the kind of sickness called lovesickness. Feng Qi glanced at me with slight surprise. I wasn't planning to say that. I couldn't tell if he was genuinely so out of touch that he didn't even know what a local hick meant, or if he was just trying to amuse me. Speechless, I heard him laugh again, his tone unreadable. Someone's chasing you? That proves my taste is good, I said, not just chasing, we slept together. Feng Qi's hands tightened on the steering wheel, and he let out a soft cough. Then that proves you've got good stamina too. I turned to study him. He still wore that expressionless face, but there was an aura of gentleness so intense it was almost eerie, like snowflakes in a vast plain turning into cotton. Are you possessed? I couldn't help asking. No, he stared straight ahead. I've just figured things out. I love you, so I want to be good to you. That's my business. If others are good to you, that's their business. If these things make you happy, he paused, his voice dropping a little, then I'll be happy too. The car stopped under my apartment building. He turned to meet my gaze. Still that aloof expression, but something in his eyes had changed. The ring, it really is just a gift. Seeing it makes you happy, that's enough. I looked at him. After a long while, he said, How terrifying. Your understanding of love is like an infant suddenly gaining enlightenment to become a grandmaster of philosophy, or a beginner in artifact refining going straight into demonic cultivation to become a heretical sect leader, from not understanding love at all to becoming completely love-crazed. Fan Qi reached out, gently picked up a strand of hair by my cheek, wrapped it around his finger, then lowered his head and placed a light kiss on the tips of the hair. He didn't defend himself, just whispered, "Yeah, love is really amazing. If chasing too closely would make you run away, then." He let go of my hair, his eyes clear. "I would rather ask for nothing, as long as I can stay by your side." I said, "Is the space beside me a parking lot? Everyone wants to park." Feng Qi's eyes curved as he asked me, "Is that okay?" I said. On Saturday, my home inexplicably became bustling. 4 people crowded into the living room to play a game. The loser had to stick a paper strip on their face. The rules were simple, but the atmosphere was subtle. After a few rounds, Xie Sun, Feng Qi, and Wei Ji's faces were almost out of space to stick strips, while I only had one on my face. It wasn't that I was so skilled, but they kept going easy on me and attacking each other. "Sarcastic, aren't you?" I yelled. Xie Sun smiled gently, sticking a note precisely onto Qi's forehead. Feng Qi remained expressionless, saying calmly, "Just luck. I hope you can still laugh in the next round." Wei Ji lazily leaned against me, secretly slipping me a card amidst the chaos, while still fanning the flames. "Wow, you two are so fierce. You can even argue over a game." I yawned, stood up, and said, "I'm off to the restroom." Glancing at the time, I figured it was time for beauty sleep, so I went straight to my room and crawled under the covers. The whispering outside suddenly grew distant. The 3 of them seemed to be arguing about something. "There has to be some order, roll the dice by the rules," someone said. The voices gradually faded, and I couldn't be bothered to listen anymore. I drifted off to sleep, half awake and half dreaming. Someone tiptoed in, the mattress sinking slightly as a warm body covered mine, gently pulling me into an embrace. A strong heartbeat resonated by my ear, like a lullaby, as their breath brushed through my hair. A gentle kiss landed on my forehead. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, with a tone of relief and profound tenderness, "I love you." I replied, "Thank you. I love myself very much too."